Namo Buddhaya. The Satasahasrika Prajnaparamita Sutram, the large sutra on perfect wisdom, the chapter 50th. Exposition of the tokens of irreversibility. Cognition of Dharma and ill. Firmness of the thought of supreme enlightenment. Moreover, Mara, the evil one, approaches the Bodhisattva and tries to dissuade him with the words, "The same as space is this knowledge of all modes. With non-existence for their own being are all dharmas empty of all marks. These dharmas also are the same as space, with non-existence for own being empty of all marks. When all dharmas have the own being of space, have no own being for own being, and are empty of all marks, no dharma can be apprehended, which could know full enlightenment, or by which it could be known. All these dharmas are the same as space, have no own being for own being, and are empty of own marks. It is useless for you to resist. A deed of Mara is this doctrine, that one should know full enlightenment. It is not the Buddha's teaching. May you, son of good family, not fall into these attentions in the hope that they will allay all ill. On the contrary, this is not conducive to advantage, benefit, or happiness, but leads to a state of punishment. When that son or daughter of good family has heard this kind of abuse, they should consider that this is a deed of Mara, that I am being dissuaded from the supreme enlightenment. Those beings do not cognize, see or understand that all dharmas are the same as space, have non-existence for own being, are empty of own marks. Therefore we, having put on the armour which is the same as space, has non-existence for own being and is empty of own marks, will, having fully known the knowledge of all modes, demonstrate Dharma to all beings, and establish even the beings in hell in the fruit of a Streamwinner, etc., in the supreme enlightenment. The Bodhisattva should begin with the first thought of enlightenment, having heard this Dharma. Make this thought firm, unshakeable, and unconquerable. Endowed with a thought which is firm, unshakeable, and unconquerable, he enters, coursing in the six perfections, into Bodhisattva's special way of salvation. Patient acceptance of subsequent cognition of will, turning away from the thought of disciples and particular Buddhas. Subhuti. Can then an irreversible Bodhisattva be called irreversible, or a reversible Bodhisattva irreversible? The Lord. An irreversible Bodhisattva may be called reversible, and a reversible Bodhisattva can be called irreversible. Subhuti. How might the irreversible and reversible Bodhisattva be so called? The Lord. The Bodhisattva who has turned away from the level of the disciples and particular Buddhas, this reversible Bodhisattva should be called irreversible. But the Bodhisattva who does not turn away from the level of the disciples or particular Buddhas, this irreversible Bodhisattva would be called reversible. This should be known as the reversible mark of the Bodhisattva who is endowed with these attributes, doctrine, and science. Endowed with these attributes, doctrine, and science, the irreversible Bodhisattva cannot be dissuaded by Mara, the evil one, from the supreme enlightenment. Subsequent cognition of will, the master of the limbs of the trances, etc. Moreover, according to plan, the irreversible Bodhisattva enters on the first trance, etc., on the attainment of cessation. Moreover, according to plan, that irreversible Bodhisattva enters on the four applications of mindfulness, etc., he consummates the five super knowledges, he becomes a complete master over the four trances, the four unlimited, the four formless attainments, and the attainment of cessation. He develops the four applications of mindfulness, etc. He enters on the path and the concentrations on emptiness, the signless and wishless, etc. He consummates the five super knowledges, but he doesn't take hold of the trances, etc. to the fruit of the attainment of cessation. He doesn't take hold of the fruit of a Streamwinner, etc. to the enlightenment of a particular Buddha. According to plan and at will, he makes hold of a new personality through which he can work the will of beings. Endowed with these attributes, etc. Patient acceptance of the cognition of Dharma and origination, lightness of body and mind. Moreover, the irreversible Bodhisattva becomes endowed with attention to enlightenment, not lacking in the thought of enlightenment. He doesn't become one who attaches weight to form or the marks, or the physical basis, or given morality, etc., to the unlimited, etc., to the enlightenment, it doesn't become one who attaches weight to the purification of the Buddha field, the maturing of beings, the vision of the Buddhas, or the planting of wholesome roots. And why? Because when all dharmas are empty of wound marks, the Bodhisattva doesn't see any dharma whereto he should attach weight, or whereby he could do so. And why? Because all dharmas are the same as space, have non-existence for all being, are empty of all marks, and that Bodhisattva endowed with attention and enlightenment remains unbewildered in the four postures. He is unbewildered whether he goes out or comes back, stands or walks about, sit or lies down. Mindful, he comes; mindful, he goes, walks about, stands, sits and lies down, endowed with these attributes, etc. Cognition of Dharma in origination, enjoyment of the sense pleasures without settling down in them. Moreover, if the Bodhisattva lives the life of a householder, he possesses all pleasant things through skill in means, and for the sake of maturing beings, he gives gifts to all beings, food to those in need of food, etc. He himself courses in the perfection of giving, he establishes others also in the perfection of giving. He praises the perfection of giving, and also those who course in it, one acquiescent, and so for the other perfections. Passion acceptance of subsequent cognition of origination. One always leads a chaste life. And again, that irreversible Bodhisattva who lives the life of a householder, gives gifts, having filled Jamadvipa, etc., to the great Italy cause with the seven precious things, but he doesn't really derive enjoyment from the sense pleasures. Constantly and always he remains chaste, and he doesn't generate anything which could overpower him or blight his spirit. Endowed with these attributes, etc., moreover, the Yakshava Japani constantly and always follows close behind the irreversible Bodhisattva so as to protect and defend him. The Bodhisattva will fully know the Supreme Enlightenment, and until that time Japani and his clan will constantly and always follow behind him. He cannot be assailed by men or ghosts, and he cannot be crushed by gods, Maras or Brahmins, or by anyone else in the world with justice. Subsequent cognition of origination, purity of livelihood by providing rightly for it. His mind is not distracted from attentions to enlightenment until the time that he fully knows the Supreme Enlightenment. The faculties of that Bodhisattva are not deficient. His eye faculty, etc., to his body faculty, or his faculties of faith, vigor, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. He is a true man, not a contemptible person. Subhuti. Through what is a Bodhisattva a true man and not a contemptible person? The Lord. If a Bodhisattva's thought is not disturbed, that is why he is a true man and not a contemptible person. Endowed with these attributes, etc. Moreover, the irreversible Bodhisattva endowed with attentions to enlightenment doesn't in any way embark on those spells, herms, magical formulas, and medical incantations, which are the work of women. Nor does he indulge in making marvelous predictions, saying to women or men, "You will have a son or daughter, you will have a family, you will live long." And why? Because the Bodhisattva doesn't see a sign in dharmas, which are empty of own marks. Not seeing a sign, he becomes one who is perfectly pure in his livelihood, endowed with these attributes, etc. Patient acceptance of the cognition of dharma in stopping, negation of dwelling in occupation or preoccupation with skandhas or sense fields. Furthermore, Subhuti, I will demonstrate the attributes, tokens, and signs endowed with which a Bodhisattva should be known as irreversible. Listen to them and attend to them well. I will teach them to you. So be it, O Lord. And the Venerable Subhuti listened in silence to the Lord. Here the Bodhisattva who courses in perfect wisdom and who is not lacking in attentions to enlightenment is not preoccupied with the skandhas elements or sense fields. And why? Because the Bodhisattva has well attended to the emptiness of skandhas, elements, and sense fields. He is not preoccupied with society. And why? Because he has well attended to the emptiness of the essential original nature. He is not preoccupied with talk about kings And why? Because standing in the emptiness of the essential or original nature, he doesn't review or any dharma, the inferiority or difficulty. Cognition of dharma in stopping, negation of the dwelling in occupations or preoccupations with talk concerning things which could act as possible obstacles to full enlightenment. He is not preoccupied with talk about robbers. And why? Because in dharmas which are empty of own marks, he doesn't review of any dharma bringing along or taking away. Passion acceptance of subsequent cognition of stopping, negation of the dwelling in occupation or preoccupation with talk about dharmas, which is held to refer to the many various things such as given, etc., which are the true equipment for enlightenment. He doesn't dwell preoccupied with talk about dharmas. And why? Because one who is established in the emptiness of the essential original nature doesn't review of any dharma, the fewness or abundance. Subsequent cognition of stopping, negation of the dwelling in occupation or preoccupation with the talk about battles, killers and their victims, hostile states and antidotes. He doesn't dwell preoccupied with talk about battles. And why? Because established in the dharmahood of all dharmas, he doesn't see any affection or aversion on the part of any dharma whatever. He doesn't dwell preoccupied with talk about villages. And why? Because established in the emptiness of all dharmas, he doesn't see the assemblage or non-assemblage of any dharma. He doesn't dwell preoccupied with talk about cities. And why? Because established in the emptiness of the space, he doesn't review the attraction or non-attraction of any dharma. He doesn't dwell preoccupied with talk about market towns. And why? Because established in the relative limit, he doesn't review the accumulation of or taken away of any dharma, whatever. He doesn't dwell preoccupied with talk about self, etc., about one who knows, one who sees. He dwells preoccupied with nothing at all outside the perfection of wisdom, and he is not lacking in mental activities associated with the cognition of all modes. Patient acceptance of the cognition of dharma in the path, negation of occupation and preoccupation with meanness, immorality, etc. Coursing in the perfection of given, he doesn't dwell preoccupied with meanness. And so for the perfection of morality and morality, etc., to the perfection of wisdom and stupidity. Coursing in the dharmahood of all dharmas, he is one who wants dharma and not its opposite. Coursing in the dharma element, he doesn't speak in praise of a broken dharma. He wants friendship, sons and daughters of good family who belong to the vehicle of the disciples and particular Buddhas, and whom he encounters in the presence of the Buddhas, the Lords, and of the Bodhisattvas, great beings. Them also he established in a supreme enlightenment, incites them to it, disciplines them in it. He pleases the Tathagatas so that he may have a vision of them. He is reborn in those world system in which the Tathagatas stand, hold, and maintain themselves. According to plan, he is reborn near them, and he dwells in those attentions, the attentions of the Buddha. And why? Because, as a rule, the irreversible bodhisattvas, when they have produced attentions associated with the world of sense desire and have observed the 10 wholesome ways of action, are reborn in those Buddha fields, having produced the first trance, etc., to the fourth formless attainment. They are reborn there, and there they are face to face with the Tathagatas who stand, hold, and maintain themselves endowed with these attributes, etc. Cognition of Dharma in the path, one doesn't take even the least Dharma as a basis. Moreover, the irreversible Bodhisattva who courses in the perfection of wisdom and who is established in subjective emptiness, etc., in the knowledge of all modes, in the doors of deliverance of emptiness, the silence and wishless, doesn't think to himself, I am irreversible and not reversible. No such doubt arises in him. He has no uncertainty about the stage he has made his own. And why? Because he doesn't review these dharmas. Him who turns away of him who doesn't turn away. Just as a man who stands on the stage of a Streamwinner has no hesitation or doubts about it, if that is the stage that is his by right, and so up to the Buddha stage. Just so the Bodhisattva, when he stands on the stage, which is his own by right, but has no hesitation or doubt about it, established on the irreversible stage, he purifies the Buddha fields and matures beings, and he quickly sees through any deed of Mara that may have arisen and doesn't come under its influence. He understands all these deeds of Mara and turns away from them, just as Subhuti, a man who has committed one of the deadly sins, will never again, until his death, lose the thought of that sin, but it will follow after him. He cannot shake off the irreversible drive towards the state of woe. Its overwhelming effect follows him until the time of his death. Just so the irreversible thought of the irreversible Bodhisattva has been truly established, he cannot be defected from the irreversible stage, and the whole world with its gods, men, and asuras cannot divert him from it. And why? That irreversible thought, having transcended the world with its gods, men, and asuras, has entered on the certainty of salvation. Having stood on the stage which is his by right, but he has achieved the complete perfection in the superknowledge purifies the Buddha field and matures beings. He passes on from Buddha field to Buddha field, and he plants in these Buddha fields wholesome rules which allow him to have a vision of the Buddhas, the Lords, to salute them respectfully, to honor them, and to hear the Dharma from them. And in all these Buddha fields, he questions the Buddhas and Lords, questions and honors them. And then, that Bodhisattva, who has thus stood, recognizes for what they are any deeds of Mara that may have arisen, and he doesn't come under their influence. And he cleanses those deeds of Mara through skill and means at the reality limit. He has no hesitation or doubts about the stage which is his by right, and why. He has no uncertainties about the reality limit, and he does review the reality limit as either one or two. When he has cognized this, even after he has passed through this present life, he will produce no thought of the level of the disciples in particular Buddhas. And why? Because the Bodhisattva doesn't, when all dharmas are empty or all marks, review the production of any dharma or its stop in its defilement or purification. Patient acceptance of the subsequent cognition of the path, he is established in the certainty about the triad of his own levels, which is essentially the same as the triple omniscience. But when the Bodhisattva has passed through this present life, he will think it is not the case that I shall not win full enlightenment. I will in fact win it. And why? Because the supreme enlightenment is empty of all marks. When the Bodhisattva has thus stood firm on the stage which is his by right, he cannot be led astray or crushed by others. And why? Because as he has stood firm on it, he becomes endowed with an insuperable cognition. If again Mara, the evil man, in the guise of the Buddha himself, were to come to him and say, realize our hardship here and now. You are not predestined to full enlightenment. You have not acquired the passion acceptance of dharmas which fail to be produced, and without that you cannot be predicted by the Tathagatas to full enlightenment. You have not the attributes, tokens, and signs which Bodhisattva must be endowed with to be predicted to full enlightenment. If a Bodhisattva, when he has heard these words, doesn't become terrified in his mind, then this Bodhisattva should know that he has been predicted to full enlightenment by the Tathagatas. And why? Because he knows that he has the dharmas endowed with which a Bodhisattva is predicted to the supreme enlightenment. Subsequent cognition of the path, renunciation of one's life for the sake of Dharma, which consists in the knowledge of all modes. If Mara, the evil one, having approached in the guise of a Buddha or of some person under the influence of Mara, should predict the Bodhisattva to the level of the disciples and particular Buddhas, then the Bodhisattva thinks to himself, this one who wants to establish me on the level of a disciple of a particular Buddha is truly Mara, the evil one, who has come along with the guise of a Buddha, or this is a person under Mara's influence. The Bodhisattva reads and studies the extensive sutras, then Mara, the evil one, comes to him in the guise of a Buddha and says to him, these have not been taught by the Lord of their disciples, taught by Mara, the sutras in which you course. But that Bodhisattva should know that it is surely Mara, the evil one, or someone under Mara's influence, who tries to dissuade him from the supreme enlightenment. He doesn't know that then he has been predicted to full enlightenment by the Tathagatas of the past, and he is firmly established on the irreversible stage. And why? Because he has the attributes, tokens, and signs of the irreversible Bodhisattvas. Endowed with these attributes, etc. Moreover, Subhuti An irreversible Bodhisattva who courses in perfect wisdom gives up even his self and life so that he may gain the true Dharma. But that Dharma he doesn't give up. The irreversible Bodhisattva makes great efforts to gain the true Dharma. He gains the true Dharma of the past, future, and present Buddhas and Lords, and he doesn't give up the Buddhas. And why? He thinks that because they have gained the true Dharma, the past, present, and future Buddhas have been worshipped. And that is the true Dharma for the sake of which the Bodhisattva gives up himself, his self. Here the Tathagatas demonstrate Dharma to the effect that all Dharmas are empty. A few deluded persons then contradict and say that this is not the Dharma, not the Vinaya, not the teacher, not the teaching, but the Bodhisattva for the sake of that Dharma gives up even his self, becomes convinced that he also will be renowned as one of the future Buddhas, that he also has been predicted to full enlightenment, and that is also is the true Dharma, for the sake of which he is willing to give up even self and life. The Bodhisattva has known these considerations in mind when he renounces even his self for the sake of gaining the true Dharma. Endowed with these attributes as a Dharma, Subhuti, when the Tathagata demonstrates Dharma, the irreversible Bodhisattva doesn't hesitate or doubt. But whatever Dharma the Buddhas may teach, all that he doesn't forget. And why? Because he has acquired the Dharanis. Subhuti. The Dharanis? What Dharanis has he acquired so that he no longer forgets the sutras taught by the Tathagata, the Lord? The Dharani which causes inexhaustibility, the seal of the ocean, and the lotus array. Subhuti. Does the Bodhisattva's absence of hesitation and doubt refer only to the Tathagata's teaching and not also to those of disciples, gods, nagas, gandharvas, asuras, garudas, kinnaras, and maharagas? The Lord. Whatever may be said or spoken by anyone with regard to the Bodhisattva has no hesitation and doubts. And why? Because he has acquired that Dharani. Endowed with these attributes, tokens, and signs of Bodhisattva, Bodhisattva should be known as irreversible from the Supreme Enlightenment. This is the end of 50th chapter of the large Sutra on Perfect Wisdom, the Satasahasrika Prajnaparamita Sutram.